Mr. Ross
Charlee.
Davenport, where have
that
you
you?
been, my friend? Yes. Welcome to TFRO, if you remember it.
I forgot what you looked like. I wanted to make sure that was you. I can't remember if you had facial hair last time I saw you, or
A little bit.
how short the hair was last time, or if you still hurt your arm. I think that was the last time I saw you was when you fell over and hurt your arm.
Okay, I'm doing pretty good. Look, I can
good to see you, sir. It's been far too long.
It's been too long. Yeah, I finally decided to get started. You
found the motivation.
Sort of, yeah. And also, of course, the first thing is to thank the sponsors. In this case, it's the Florida Youth Rugby Union that is always very supportive.
Yes.
And we're going to have the chairman later on today, Alan Lawson. And, basically, we're going to be talking of the State of the Unions.
Yeah, there was an address by some bloke in Washington last night that was addressing the today is our now we're stepping up to address the Florida Rugby Nation.
Exactly. And first things first, I have to bring on my biggest fan that never misses a podcast. She actually watches it twice, and she's already there to say hello. Hello, Valentina.
Hello, Valentina.
¿Cómo está, Valentina?
She's got her awesome shirt on. I see that.
She actually has the only. I don't even have a shirt like that with my name. She's the only one who has it.
The only one with Val. Look at that, looking so sharp.
So I wonder where the dogs are.
They're always around somewhere.
Exactly.
Unless somebody let them out.
There's one in the back there.
Oh, I see her on the couch there. She.
That's
he or she. Eduarda. So that means it's a she. Oh, she heard her name.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple of more dogs.
There she goes.
Well, thank you, Valentina. I'll see you later.
See you, Valentina.
Oh, there's the other one.
There's the other one.
That's Roberto. Well, maybe we see her at the end, okay?
Definitely.
That's Roberto.
Our biggest fan.
The latest edition. See you later, alligator. Valentina, besos.
I do need to explain my my little name tag here. I just came from a girls' lacrosse game, which has to be the worst sport in the world, Charlie. It makes rugby look great because within girls and boys rugby, obviously the rules are completely the same. Not the case for girls lacrosse. Boys lacrosse, they can whack each other, hit each other, shove each other. A lot of contact. It's good to watch. Girls lacrosse, they can't touch each other.
Imagine if we did that in rugby, huh?
Right. It'd be like making the girls play touch rugby or flag rugby, or obviously flag is fine when you're coming up, but these are high school girls, and they're not allowed to touch each other. So, anyway, we're not here to talk about lacrosse. We're here to talk about
rugby.
Rugby and flag. Again, thanks to our sponsors, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Always glad when we get a little sponsor here too, and you can support Charlie. I'll ignore his spelling mistake. You can maybe buy him a spelling lesson as well. Support with 2 P's, Rugby in Florida. Rugbyfl.com/buy me a coffee. Listen, Charlie puts a ton of work behind the scenes of Florida Rugby, keeping the standings updated, the schedules, posting videos. So please help Charlie out if you can, even if it's with a couple of bucks a month. We'll help out whatever you can chip in.
Yeah, let me just explain that a little bit, just so people understand, because there is a lot of work I do every week on a regular basis that people enjoy and follow, on the website. The website is a huge database going back 10 years, and every game has the info inputted, when, where, who's the ref, how many tries.
It's a great resource.
It's very, complete, and I do it with a lot of passion, I guess, every single weekend.
It is a passion project. You're right, and we obviously have to thank the refs who do report the scores relatively. In a timely nature. No, not all the time. Some better than others.
Most. We have some exceptions. I was texting Kerri that she's lost, so I'm giving her directions. And also, so I set up the system. Buy me a coffee. You can go and just donate $2 a month, or $5 or $10 or $20.
Yes.
And if a few
people
about
it. I donate to a couple of other podcasts, a music one and a soccer one, and I put it in there every month, and I forget about it. And it all adds up when everybody gets in there. And you buy Charlie a mate. It should be. No,
I got plenty. Don't worry. That is covered. So let's before we get to Kerri, that hasn't shown up, she's finding her way. Let's talk quickly about MLR. Okay.
Yes. Sharks are doing all right. They're giving people heart attacks every single week.
Look at the Sharks, number 1 in the East Conference right now.
Let's be honest, Charlie. They really should be 20-0. We won't talk too much about that first game where things went a little upside down in the last 10 minutes.
There's like a pattern here. We get scored upon in the first 5 minutes every game, pretty much.
And then we wake up.
And then we do a great game. And the last 2 minutes, it's like a heart attack is going to, get you.
Yeah, well, you and I have talked about these jerseys. They look great until you look at them from the front when the line down the middle just goes straight through your crotch.
I'm sorry.
Which is a little strange.
I got the wrong video here. This is against the All Glory, the first game.
Oh, yeah, don't show that. Well, you can show the highlights of the first 70 minutes of this one. Then just cut it off.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get quickly the one from...
Anyway, they're back in action this Friday night, so no excuse. There's Tom Champer in the background. Florida's very own, sprinting down the touchline. They do play the Chicago Hounds this weekend for first place in the East.
Yeah,
Friday
that's going to be...
So no excuse to miss that one, Florida rugby people, because there are no club games on a Friday night, even though I wish perhaps there would be occasionally so we can get teams some better refs. But Friday night against the Hounds, get out there down to... I don't know the name of the field right now. What's the name of the field these days, Charlie? I can't keep up.
My God!
It's next to Inter Miami Stadium. Okay,
it's a Shark Tank for me. Yeah,
the
they
Shark
change
Tank.
it.
Yes,
depends where you look at. They put a different name in every place.
It's very easy to find. Parking's pretty easy. If you really want to park for free, you can go park somewhere in the neighborhood and walk.
Yeah,
been done before. It's a lot more reasonable than it is for the Inter Miami games. Though I'll tell you that much.
For sure.
I'll be there Friday night. I haven't been to a game yet this season. So I'll be there Friday night. Looking forward to another win, perhaps.
Well, all these games are very tight. If you see the scores from the other games, most of the games, it's always like a 1-score game.
Yes, I mean, we also have Florida's very own Alex Tucci scored this past weekend.
Yeah, the other one.
To see.
2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago.
We also beat New Orleans and not tough. I'm going to call him a former back row because he's now a second row. Cam Dolan, originally out of the Naples area, obviously. But yeah, MLR getting going. I've seen some good crowds there, Charlie.
Yeah.
The momentum is continuing to go from year one.
Yes, it is. I think the team is better this year. It's more solid. They still have some things to patch up, but I think the team is better. They're scoring more. They're more dangerous.
It's going to shore up the defense a little bit and figure out the mental side of things in the last 10 minutes, because that's almost cost us. It cost us one game and it almost cost us another one.
Exactly. Yeah.
With a kicking mistake, but anyway, good to see the Sharks off to a great start. So get out there Friday night, people.
Let's bring in our first guest, Kerri O'Malley, as she finally find her way. Hello, Madame President. Oh, is that correct?
That's correct, Madame. I don't know about that part.
Mademoiselle.
How are you doing, Kerri? Thank you very much for coming. I know it's hard. You just coming from a practice. Everybody who's involved in rugby is doing more than one thing. You officers from the union, of course, everybody's a coach or something else, a ref. And on top of that, for some reason, you choose to do this. I cannot understand. So thank you very much.
Trooper. What practice were you at, Kerri? Gainesville?
No, I was at UF women's practice. So their head coach stepped down. He's got some family things, and so I'm going out one night a week.
Breaking news. Now, the women's college scene in Florida is very confusing. Whether it's 7s or 15s, I can't keep up with who's playing in what. And the U.S. women are competing in what this year, Kerri? Fill us in.
And so
if I can't keep up, then I know a lot of other people can't keep up either.
So for the college women, most of them joined NCR, which is the national. It's called National College Rugby, and it used to be like just for small colleges, but now and they do 15s in the fall and they do 7s in the spring. So when I went out, I didn't know that was entirely the case. They said, "Oh, we're going to be playing some 15s in the spring." So when I went out, I was like, "Cool, we'll do 15s." And then we played USF last weekend, and they're like, "Hey, by the way, in like a week and a half, we were going to have our first 7s and not 15s at all." So yes.
So right on theme. Just mass confusion within the ranks, even. But listen, hey, as long as they're playing, I don't care whether it's 7s, 10s, 15s.
I'm afraid to ask you because we might want to try to do a round robin here on March 29th. And
is that a Sunday? No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly, it is. It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday. It is that is quarterfinals day for the men.
I know.
The women, they're not having quarterfinals, but the men and D2 and D3. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
It just to finish off the college women. It seems to me that it has not been a very good season for them because the teams that played in the NCR were just 3 teams: UCF, USF, and UF, right?
And FSU, and then
FSU, 4 teams.
From Florida, and then
and it was really hard to follow, to be honest. I
think it's because it's the first year. I thought that actually most of the college women's teams, so I thought the other ones actually joined as well.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, what's happening with the likes of Eckerd? Yeah, because Eckerd was always a solid program.
Yeah, Eckerd is still playing in USA Rugby.
Oh, okay.
Their college division, and then some of the schools that are just getting started. So I'm almost positive FIU is
getting some girls together as
NCR. Yeah, I think they're in NCR.
But they haven't played. They haven't played 15s. And they can play FIU, UM. They just don't have a full team. So
FIU women will play this weekend.
Yes,
and
7s.
Yeah.
So. Well, come on,
Charlie.
You know what they say? 7s is not really rugby. Okay.
You get a taster though. You get a taster.
It's great in itself, but it's not really rugby. I think we all want to.
Oh, Charlie, that's some controversial words.
No, it's not.
Mr. Velázquez. What's rugby league then?
What?
Exactly. What about 10s?
Vegas.
It is a different sport, but it's still rugby, Charlie. It's a different sport that requires. Anyway, but listen, they're getting out there and getting tasters, and then they can go play for invitational sides. Savannah this weekend, for example. Yes. I forget which game was supposed to be this weekend, but both teams decided they were going to. Oh, it was Hammerheads against Treasure Coast. They both decided they were all going to go to Savannah anyway, which is much more fun. For those that have been to the Savannah tournament, just pray you don't have an 8 a.m. game on Sunday. That's all I can say. Because the refs used to pray they don't have an 8 a.m. game on Sunday. Well, great to see you, Kerri. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. What are we talking about tonight?
Well, we're talking about a little bit of everything. We want to sort of see the state of the union, and you have been president since like between 2014 and 2022, and then if I'm not wrong, I have that in my notes.
Yeah.
And then you never really left because you sort of stayed, and because you were involved with the the USA Rugby connections and right. So you really never left. They invented the emeritus position just
that
for
was Rick. Rick did a good job there.
Yeah, so he could get it later. I think that's what that was. Because now, if you go to Wikipedia, that's what it says.
Oh, I haven't Wikipedia the union recently. Yes, so I've done this before, and I am back for a while.
I don't know why you do this, but I'm glad you do it. Tell us about this union, because it's a fairly, I think, compared to in the past, this is like I'm going to show here all the people that are related, or let's say belong to the union.
Yes.
So
related. It is a family, Charlie. So yeah, you can say related.
It's a really large group of people. Tell us a little bit how this works and how you guys getting along and doing stuff.
So yeah, we do a lot on WhatsApp. so I will say
like everybody else.
We do a lot. We accomplish a lot on WhatsApp, and then there are some people on here that let's see, that don't really aren't part of the chat who are probably like don't feel like listening to us. So like Scott, the discipline chair, he does a ton of work, but he doesn't have to endure our WhatsApp messages. Graham reads them but doesn't send a lot back. I think he likes to be more of a fly on the wall. And then Tonya, she tries to keep up to date. So I'm kind of like working my way backwards, but it was just funny because I was like, Scott doesn't have to put up with our chatter. But Tonya like kind of keeps up and says like, hey, is this something that we should be sharing or is this something we should be posting?
And just speaking, because you mentioned her, she's going to be playing professionally in this new women's professional league, which I think most people don't even know it exists. The WER.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how would you pronounce that?
For
team in Missouri.
I'm like cold. No, Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Yes, Minneapolis. Yeah, somewhere freezing.
There's multiple Cold City teams, but hers is Minneapolis.
It's her and Samantha Black from Tampa also playing.
There was 3 of them, I think. There was 3. We'll have to get them all on at one point, Charlie, once they've played a couple of games. And check in with them in that world.
I just want to mention that.
Yeah. And then Ashford is our admin. And then the rest of the board, probably most of the people know whoever is their VP will actually be recruiting a VP for college women. James will be stepping down, so we'll need a college women's VP. And so I don't think we were kind of hoping that we could just do that at the next meeting. But if there is someone that's interested, they could get appointed and then they get elected at like the next meeting. So, but most of the board, most of these people were on the board before I came back. And then, so I will say, WhatsApp is our friend. We did have an it was before I was the president, but there was an in-person meeting of the group to kind of like brainstorm and things. That was last May. So that was before I was president, but I was there.
Overall, a pretty young group of people.
Yeah,
yourself.
Everybody's younger than me, I think, except for Mike and Roy. Yeah, I mean, it's better because one of the things that I think sometimes I struggle with, and I think sometimes the older administrators deal with, and I'm sorry to call us older, is like finding the most effective ways to communicate with like younger generations. So I think we're struggling with this now kind of as a union. I think that we're like, well, did you check your email? And people are like, no.
Well, we're having the same problem with the referee appointments.
So I think we're going to add back, like we had started that FYRU announcement channel. Charlie, I think you pointed out to me that no one was using it and no one was subscribing to it, but we're actually going to do that again because I think we just have a hard time getting like information out. And then also like in ways that people want to digest it, right? So like
as in 2 paragraphs, no more than that.
I love bullet points. I voted for someone on a position on USA Rugby Senior Club Council. I didn't know any of the people running. And I opened up this person's thing and it was like bullet points. I'm like, I love this man. I'm voting for him for the bullet points. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
A lot of people on this list doing hard work and for little reward. So thanks for leading this group.
Yeah, well, if I could just make a plug that like Mike Williams keeping it together this year, because there have been a lot of changes in the men's competition, and
yes,
Mike is like a rock.
He's been very good. He's been very good to me too. Yeah, very communicative, and
his
emails are always they're always long, but they're always he says what he needs to be said, and then he gets out of there. So no, I appreciate that.
That's when you have to use AI to summarize his emails and get to the point. That's a great feature. So why don't we just go sort of over the categories and talk a little bit about what has changed, and we can start with Division 2.
Are we back to calling it Division 2? I had a flashback the other day.
I always called it
Premier League and
I always called it Division 2. That's like a Gulf. It's like a Gulf of Mexico situation, you know. I'm just calling it what it is, okay? Division 2.
Yeah. So I probably like all of the various VPs.
Hey, hello, Amelia.
Those Aristos.
I don't want to butcher this, right? So the VPs are way better at knowing everything that's going on. So like I'm like upper level management. Like if someone calls out sick, I can like kind of keep it together, but like don't exactly know how to do everything. So this year, I want to say that the biggest change was Trident being Division 1, playing in the league, but then not doing playoffs.
Yes.
And then also the extended round of playoffs to try to. I think there were a lot of reasons for the extended round of playoffs, but it keeps people. I think we see a lot of times towards the end of the season, teams that are out of it are like, well, we're done. You know, we're not in the playoffs, and we just stop playing. And so we used to see a lot of forfeits. And so I think that other round of playoffs is there for that reason.
No, I like it. I also like giving the top team the bye, give them something to work towards. You want play that one less game, which we all know how much that can mean, having that extra week to recover.
Yeah. And then also too, I think it's like a credit to Jacksonville for moving up. So they had not won Division 3, but they had opted to move up a division for more challenging rugby. That was like a change this year. And then I'd also still credit Palm Beach for doing that. I think that was last year that they made that change. So I think that's
it's great to see so many teams now having that second side as well in D3. To obviously differing levels of success, but it does help the new guys, because a lot of times when you have that one team in D2, you're a new guy that shows up, you might not get to play all season except maybe a brief B game here and there. So I like seeing these teams with the two sides.
Yeah, I think next year we might try to come up with like better criteria for like, you know, Gomez. I hate to say when Gomez is right, man. It's like, you know, when you're like, I hate to say it, you told me so.
Seminoles Gator thing, I get it.
But it's, you know, Gomez was right, you know, when he was like, I don't think this team, it doesn't seem like they're going to be successful. We should try to establish criteria for like, this is what your fall needs to look like, you know, because this happens too, where people are like optimistic in the fall. They're like, oh, by the spring, it's going to be all together. But Gomez, I think will be something that he kind of works on, helps us develop. Like, if you would like to enter that second side, these would be the criteria that your club would demonstrate in order to make that happen.
Right, like a minimum amount of SIPT players, something like that.
Yeah, like you have 60 SIPT guys in the fall. I don't know what it is, but like that could be an example.
No, I hear you. I like that idea. We had the days where they were forcing B-side games on people, which I never really liked. These teams should want to have a B-side in there to develop talent, because otherwise there's no way to develop a new guy that's coming in. So no, I like that. And the playoffs coming up with that on March 29th. First round quarterfinals. Pelly's look like they've got the bye secured there as the top seed, and Jacksonville and Orlando are kind of fighting for that bottom spot, who will not make the playoffs. It's only going to be 7 teams with the first round. We'll call it the quarterfinals, even though there'll only be 3 games. So looks right now like Hammerheads. We'll say 3 out of those next 5 after that. 2 out of those next 5 will host actually 3 of them, will host a quarterfinal on the 29th. So plenty to play for still in the middle of the pack there.
I just want to add one quick thing about these teams that have 2 sides. I think that for you to have one side that has to compete consistently, like you cannot forfeit, you need a minimum of 30 players, or at least I would say 35 for the season in each team, because you're going to need them. I mean, every team at any level, you know, you just can't make a season. Even this one is not that long, and then that's when you see some teams starting to struggle. We have a case in high school also, you know, Okapi, they have 2 U19s. and it's been tough, as the season progresses, to keep the two teams, with 23 players on game day. So they have to really think about that. But yes, let's move on to D3. Of course, we eliminated D4 from past years. That was something that I'm not sure exactly why that was done, because D4 was a mess. And what was the intention of?
I think we had such a disparity between the level of play, because at one time there were a lot of those clubs were new, and if you think, if you think about when it was like, it was a while back, but Palm Beach, Brevard, Gainesville, were doing really well, and then there would be like a huge drop off for some of the newer teams, like obviously, like maybe it was Treasure Coast, or it was before it was Indian River, or so there was a huge difference. And so then those clubs, I mean, I've been on the bad side of an 80 point, a 60 point loss, and so that I don't think playing matches with those huge losses really develops the game or helps people keep people out. You can have one, right? Like you have one a year, but if you do that for many weeks, I think it makes it really hard to go out there. So I think that's why the D4, but then existed at one time. But I think that the playing field, like, I mean, Lakeland here, I would say them being as far down on the table as they are, I think doesn't represent how far that I think that they've come. And they've been, competitive in several matches. So like, so I think they can hang. And so I think now having everybody, so I think there are times that the D4 works, but probably don't need it now.
Yeah, the top four in this D3 are sort of breaking away from the rest of the group. Same in D3, only 7 teams will make the postseason. So there's going to be a nice big run at the bottom here between a few teams trying to make those bottom spots, and obviously a big race at the top as well to try and get that by. Sarasota back, it seems a couple of years since Sarasota have been this competitive. I mean, they're always in the mix, but great to see them back up. They're undefeated at the moment. And I think any one of those top 4 teams could take home the title.
Yeah.
Obviously, Miami Rugby in there, just playing friendlies this year. We'll see. What's the latest on them, Kerri? Any reports from Dade County on their progress in perhaps getting back to D2?
I don't know. I don't know anything about that, to be honest.
I can
Charlee
say
could probably,
something.
Go ahead.
Yeah. They are trying to keep these games, and they have been keeping them and playing, sometimes without even being able to have 15, but they are showing up and playing. So that's good. They're in a really tough situation, so they are trying. I don't see them coming back to D2 anytime soon, at least not.
You're going to start from the bottom and build the numbers back up.
We've had several teams.
Look at 10 years ago, Charlie, the Tridents were a bit of a mess, and Miami were the number 1 team, and now it's gone back the other way. So it just takes a bit of leadership. They'll be back up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the woman, pretty surprising this year, having Tampa. I'm surprised. I talked with somebody from Tampa, and they apparently lost a bunch of their first players, and they're rebuilding a little bit. And at the same time,
we've seen it happen to a lot of teams, Charlie, in Florida, right? You win a national championship, and then it's like, okay, that's the peak I'm ever going to get. I'm getting up there now. It's time for me to call it a day.
It does
happen. There's been some very competitive
players.
Women's matches this year across the board. I'm disappointed they're not having semifinals. I was hoping they would kind of change their mind about that.
I think they get tired of seeing each other.
I get it. This is the one year where, honestly, almost anybody could beat anybody. Obviously, Fort Miami have come back as the class as they were a few years ago. I've seen their numbers. They practice around the corner from me, so I see them every Tuesday, Thursday night, practicing literally 500 yards from my house. And they've got great numbers. Obviously, had some great results. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. with this 4-team race.
You could have, if you took a look at Instagram in September, you could have projected that Fort Miami would be would be stronger this year because they did a great job recruiting. And I think also, like, for women's rugby, the success of the Olympics, I think, really helped people with like those numbers. And so I think that they did a great job probably keeping those people out. I also saw, I have not played in a very long time. But
are you coming back? Are you coming back? Is that your announcement?
She wants a spot in this professional league, Charlie.
That alumni game is
she wants that money.
Alumni game I played for about 20 minutes is the best I've got. But they have a lot of new faces that are like talented. So I think, I think that it is huge to get, not just for the women, but for everybody, get big numbers in the fall. And get them games, and then it's so much easier for your coaches because you can run an attack and a defense in everything you do. You're not like running against 4 people holding a pad.
Yeah, for sure. The recruiting side of things is, do you go out and try and recruit rugby players, or do you go try and recruit athletes that you could turn into rugby players? Varied success with that, but from looking at Fort Miami's team, they just seem to be finding athletes everywhere.
We do have to mention the Naples ladies that are
Naples and Treasure Coast. Yeah, obviously been playing here and there.
I'm gonna give Gomez another plug since now that I know he's listening. One of the things that Gomez talked about in the summit this summer is like getting people and then doing things that create value, and particularly at coaching. So, we'll have people and they'll be like, oh, we had all these people out in the fall and like none of them stayed. And it's like, is your practice any good? Did they stay? I'm not trying to be a jerk. Like, did you get their phone number, or did they just like leave after training and no one talked to them? Did you make their time feel worth it? Or were there a lot of times where they were standing around talking? Like, if you get athletes want to work. They don't want to stand around and talk, so they want to make sure they get their time in. So I'm sure he said a lot more than that, but he'll probably tell me I said it wrong.
And maybe we need more competition in the fall, Kerri. I'm always a big fan of, I think we just leave the fall, other than All Florida Day, which is relatively small. We just leave it up to the clubs, and literally you have some clubs that do not play one game in preseason at all.
That was crazy this year.
We have these seasons, 6-7 games, and that's it. I think we have to play more rugby. I mean, I would play rugby all year round, of course, but I think
this has been a subject of discussion for decades here, Charlie. Is that how long should the season be? I remember.
But I think we have
to start playing until January. Some didn't mind playing in November.
I think we have to make more of the fall. I think it will just be better for everybody. Because you can go if you go and practice for 4 months and you don't play a game. If you're already a rugby player, maybe okay, that's fine. Because but if you're learning, the real thing is the game. Practice is not rugby. Rugby is on the field when you play against somebody. So that's why.
I think that's a good time to develop the new people. So you got like, the really older players that are like, my body can only take so much. I'm spring only. You're like, sure, we'll see you then. But you have some people that are like newer or younger, and they work with like, for the senior clubs, they can work with the new players to get games. But I do think, and people ask about a fall competition. And I think if clubs want to make it happen, we used to have, it was a long time ago, but we had a mini competition. I think it was Gainesville, Tallahassee. This was when Tallahassee was still in like deep South when that union still existed. But it was Gainesville, Tallahassee, Savannah, and Brunswick, Georgia. And we would set up like a mini thing. There's nothing.
Maybe local.
Yeah. So
maybe, I always think one of the things that I don't like the way the season's set up now is that if you get an injury, even if it's a minor injury, you miss half the season. If you miss a month, you miss half the season, which is why I don't understand some of these teams. Even if we started in the first week, played a couple of games in December and then have a break here and there, that you're not going to miss half the season if you pull a hamstring.
Okay, let's talk about college, and I'm going to bring in Gomez, who's not going to show his face apparently, but he's going to be on. Are you there, Gomez?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't want to drive down your viewership.
Hey, don't be so humble. So, well, just in time, because we're going to talk about college, and you may know a thing or two about this.
Yes, no, we've obviously D1 and D2 again this year. Was that the second year now, Mike? We've had D1 and D2. We had promotion relegation. I know last year, I think things are still going to have the same thing this year, but a little different. With it, people wanting to move up, etc., versus having to get promoted. How's the college season gone, Mike?
Yeah, so you know, like Kirk says, right? The only constant in college rugby is change. So a little, you know, everything's the same, but just a little different compared to last year. We've got more teams in D2, and whoever wins that will have, you know, there's a North and a South division, 2 4-team divisions, which is great, a nice robust competition.
Yeah.
Whoever wins the North will play whoever wins the South. Location to be determined on April 5th, and whoever wins that match has the right to challenge whoever finishes in last place in Division 1 at the state championship for promotion relegation.
We won't mention which school's in last place at the moment.
Yeah, and then Division 1, 7-game regular season. It's the 6 teams split up North and South. One from the North will host 2 from the South, vice versa, and then they'll meet at the state finals. And then depending on who you are, the winner of that will then get to spend the whole weekend in Indianapolis for 2-day playoffs. They'll play a Friday semifinal and then a Sunday final.
And that's for the national championship?
That's for the quote-unquote national championship.
USA Rugby.
That's for the CRAA Spring 15s D1 AA National Championship Participation Trophy, world's tallest short person.
Looking at D1, I know there's a couple of big games coming up here. I know FSU you guys could, I think, clinch this weekend, right? If you take care of, is it UF this weekend, I think, Mike? And then
yeah. So we'll be
St. Thomas UCF this weekend as well, which would certainly decide the south side of things.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
and it's been pretty competitive for the most part.
Yeah, of course. There's it's been pretty close between, you know, except the polar ends. So we love to see that. We love to see close games. We love to see everyone being able to beat everyone, like UCF. You know, clobbered UF. You know, whereas, you know, we ran it up on UCF and, you know, had a 2-point match against UF. So, you know, it's great to see that parity.
So, on the D2 side of things, UNF obviously trying to make their way back into D1, and obviously MAU, the newcomers that have been very, very impressive. Do we expect MAU will challenge to go up to D1 next year, Mike?
We'll see. You know, we'll see if they're in order.
Yes.
You know, I know that was like a point of contingency in the past, whether, you know, teams were, you know, willing and able to do, you know, anybody can be a rugby team, right? But like, you know, being a college rugby team,
yes.
Yeah, right. Like it comes with just like a whole bunch of unnecessary bureaucracy.
It's mostly paperwork and a little bit of rugby.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, you know, personally, like I would love it if I could run like an under 23s team. Like, you know, if Yalad was to turn, you know, Melania into Doral U23s, like that'd be super cool.
Back to pandemic days.
Yeah, right. Hey, I still say to this day that 2021 was my absolute favorite year of rugby.
When we had the U23s. Well, yeah, man, let's get rid of college.
It's how things are done, right? In most of the world, college rugby except in a couple of countries, is a little different. Each club has their U23s, and that's how they compete. But I think we're a bit of a ways from that because we love to represent our universities here.
Listen, I do want to mention this from the FCC, which I think is great. Number one, Kerri, listen, see if you can do this for the rest of the divisions. They live stream all their games. They have to, Division 1. Maybe sometimes not the best videos, but you have them all. Most of the time, they're pretty okay. They are looking to, I don't know, Mike, if this year they enforced the AR thing that they have to have 2 ARs.
It's a policy. Enforcement is
okay.
Law enforcement is different than policy.
But they're trying to have ARs in every game. And next year, I believe they're gonna have to have a set of microphones for the ref and the ARs.
Love it.
Yeah, of course you love it. So I think that I just want to mention that because I think that is what I many times say. Hey, let's get a little bit better this season. Not the same or not worse. Let's get a little bit better. Okay. And, you can say, okay, next year we're going to do this. You have time to prepare, you follow up and things happen. So I think we covered pretty much all of the divisions. I'm going to bring in Alan. We're going to talk with Alan Lawson of the youth, but you should stay, Kerri, a little bit if you can. Gomes, you can also stay. And let's bring in Alan. Before I do that, I don't know if you want to say anything, Kerri, as president.
Confirm your refs tonight.
I just got a text from a ref that hasn't had his ref. I'm going to call out this team here, and if they want to do it quickly before 9 p.m.
That's an ongoing battle.
Miami's playing Orlando B. It is in Palm Beach, so I don't know whether Miami wants to. They are technically the home team, so maybe somebody from Miami can reach out to.
Yeah. So my 2 things. One is we are just, there are some things we're holding together with Band-Aids that we think probably need some fixing. Not that confirming the referee is one piece of it. There are definitely some things where we're not making this change in the middle of the season. That would be unfair to teams, and everyone will get confused. And then to comment on the streaming of the games, those clubs pay for it. And so I think you get what you pay for. And so I think, I would love to see people do that, but, they'd have to pay the money. And
yeah.
Oh,
Kerri, do you want to announce where we're playing the finals?
Sure. I've been telling everybody it wasn't official because I've been afraid to do it without a contract. So we are, this is actually a good opportunity to give a little backdrop. So we will be going back to Titusville. While we liked IMG, it was unavailable. We looked at a lot of other places, and we tried to get something going down by the Sharks game because they have a home game, and we're like, cool, we'll make it a party. We'll play down there, and then everyone will go to the Sharks game after. Couldn't identify a venue that would work with 2 pitches and things we needed.
Really tough.
So we're going back to Titusville. I think that served us well when we've run it there before. I think that the field might be a little bit shorter, if I remember, but the width is pretty good, right? Is that?
Yeah. It was fine. As far as I can remember, it was fine.
But so we're going back to Titusville, and we'll be working with Brevard again on some of that. I think one thing that would benefit us, and they're doing at the national level, is if we know when nationals are next year, then we can set when the regionals are, and then we can set our state championship, and then that helps us try to get venues sooner. I think we have been working on trying to identify a venue since November, and we were prioritizing IMG because it had gone well for us, and it's been a tough year, so I think we'd want to start sooner.
Okay, I just have one request for the finals.
Yeah,
can we get some better posts than last year? Taller.
Charlie's obsessed with posts, Kerri, if you haven't realized this already.
I'm going to send you a tip later, Kerri, where we can get them, okay? It's
probably not going to happen, Charlie. I know you say this, and I'll do what I can. And we have posts, and if a ball can go through them, I'm happy.
Okay.
So
we just have to bring the extensions because last year we didn't bring the extensions. Remember? Okay.
I wasn't there.
You were there? Okay. I was.
Remember when Surf in the Sevens didn't have posts and we had scoring zones, and Charlie, I think he disowned me for like a month.
Yeah, at least for sure. Let me bring in Alan Lawson, who has been patiently waiting here. So these are with his impressive background.
Look at that handsome devil. Look at that beard.
So we have the two head of rugby's, the two rugby heads of the state.
Hello, Kerri. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Have you guys ever thought of having just one union?
Listen, I'll give her the reins right now.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with parents.
Yep.
Well, we got some exciting stuff this weekend, Alan, with the youth, with the Treasure Coast Festival.
Yes.
How's that looking? I've seen the schedule. It's nice. It's good to have a festival in somewhere that doesn't normally host.
I literally just reset it because I messed up on the U12s. I accidentally had teams playing each other twice, so I had to fix that. None of the times changed. It's just.
Well, you don't need to tell me that they're going to be refs there, so that's all that matters.
Yes.
Now, give us sort of an overview of this season. I know. Listen, the numbers. I think overall, everybody will say they're not quite where we want them to be.
No, we're bigger. We're above
the
last
upper
year
end of things.
Level.
Yeah, 16s seem to be where the struggle area is this year. But give us a sort of overall thoughts, Alan, from 10,000 feet.
Well, I think youth continues to just that U10, U12 is just massive. And then we have that struggle. It's that piece where these parents see it going from playing 10s and 12s to 15s in live scrums at U14 when they're 12 years old, and everybody else does it in the world. It's just that it scares a lot of kids to come away or to come back. And then a lot of times, and then we have another problem where with the U14s, you get some of these kids that start high school and they either drop out of football or they don't want to play U16s. They just think it's too hard and it's weird. And then they come back their sophomore, junior year. It's the bizarrest thing.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, we're seeing that. I see obviously the schedules you send me, and the number of 10s and 12 games is awesome. And they've got to start there and then continue. Learn how to get hit, learn how to make tackles properly.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost
the girls competing as always.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things I gotta check it, but I think the this new rule change. Some of this stuff is just absolutely ridiculous. What they're doing is USA Rugby is when a kid turns 18, they re-register them as an adult, and they are actually supposed to be taking Safe Sport.
What?
And a background check. Yep, it's unbelievable. We do not enforce that. The insurance binder still covers it. It's just So what happens is my numbers are growing. I'm like, why are my numbers growing? I look at it, and we'll have a player that just turned 18 in high school still.
Right.
That now they have a adult registration as well as a youth registration. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
They have to pay twice for that, I assume?
No, it's a legacy. It's a legacy registration.
Okay.
But then what that does is, I mean, they're supposed to take Safe Sport. And there is no way. I have a difficult enough time right now just enforcing background checks and Safe Sport with coaches and admins.
Yes.
So the sad part's going to be there are a handful of folks that we sent out the deal. We actually been checking in kids and coaches, and for those coaches that have not done their background, and we've been sending the report out since before Thanksgiving. I'm I'm banning them from being a part of rugby for next year because if you haven't done a background check, which is simple, you pay for it, you're registered. All you got to do is click a button, and they can go before the board next year and see if they can get readmitted. But I'll just submit it to USA Rugby and say this person's to be banned for a year.
Good for you. No,
so
not a risk we can take.
It's interesting. We get a lot of parents that, people get upset and this, that, and the other thing. And I go, look, you'd be surprised at how many people actually fail. Actually, how many people fail background checks. I mean, and you can't, and it comes down, it's not about DUIs or anything like that. It really comes around whether it's an assault charge or, of some sort of sexual predator. So, believe it or not, I have parents all the time. I've been coaching all year. I have no idea who you are, dude, or I have no idea. And if you don't have a badge, you're not allowed on the field.
Yeah, no, I know at the high school level for other sports, as an official myself in football and soccer, you have to do a different background check than we even have to do to referee rugby. So
one of the good news is the state of Florida adopted the class 2, so we're prepared to do and I think that's good for 2 years, but then it requires fingerprinting. So with the fingerprinting piece, that'll change it a little bit easier. The only problem that I'm going to need to go back to, which I don't understand, is there's a hefty fee from USA Rugby. I'm hoping to get that money back to bring down the cost for administrators and coaches to register, because it's a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I think we pay, for I'm trying to remember how much it was for high school, at least $80-$90 just to get your fingerprints done and get registered.
And you don't know, I don't even think you know this, Ross, and I don't think you guys enforce it, but the referees are supposed to be background checked in Safe Sport.
Well, you do through registration. Yeah, when you register through Explorer.
But is anybody monitoring that with you guys and making sure this actually happens?
We obviously know who's registered and who isn't.
Not registered. Who has completed their background check in Safe Sport?
Yeah, no, I know we have. What the other? Is it concussions? I'm trying to think when we started.
It's rugby safety. It's the 3. It's the background check, Safe Sport, and rugby safety basics.
It takes a little bit. I have to do it also.
The good news is on the Safe Sport and the rugby safety basics, it used to be with rugby safety, with Safe Sport, you had to it was retake the whole course. It's like two hours. Now it's just a 20-minute refresher. So once you do it, the only thing that sucks is I redid mine, and 1 week later they changed the rule. I'm like, really? Like, I sat here on a Sunday morning, drink coffee for 2.5 hours, going through all the videos, and they won't let you fast forward them. Trust me, I tried.
I know you're a big man on the discipline side of things. How's the discipline been this year? I know you're on a quest to improve that here in 2025.
We changed our ruling on the fighting. And basically, we just adopted the World Rugby rules, which is you get in a fight, you're out 3 games minimum, and that's the rule. And then, if we deem it further, then you can appeal. The difference between us and the adult is, if you get a red card, you cannot appeal a red. It's automatic time served. We simply don't have the manpower to go through and do that. But 99.9% of the time, the red cards are well deserved, and you just sit out the 1 game. And then which changed a lot. It started changing it last year, the behavior. And then the only reason that you can appeal is that if we review it and we decide to say, hey, that 1 goes to a 3 or that 1 goes to 2 games, then they have the right to appeal the additional sentence. And that's really where it is. So that's how it works. And it's funny, we have it on our website and things like that, but we all have selective amnesia on what we want to remember and what we don't want to remember. So we just keep it out there and make sure that people are fully aware of what's happening.
Has there been an improvement this year, though, you think, on the discipline?
Yeah, we just got our 2nd red. It was a game. It was Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and the kid took a kid out of bounds, didn't wrap, and almost depleted. He took out both players, and Dave gave a red card for that. And and they said, there's not going to be an extension of that. Actually, I forgot to send that to Mr. Church. I meant to call him on Tuesday, but there's on that one. It's kind of a bang. We don't try to get too worked up. It's the fights and stuff we have, and that is when to go through a season. Now that I've said it this weekend, right? I'm knocking on wood over here. I probably just totally jinxed myself. It's pretty 6 this weekend, but and the other thing that we're going to do too is this red card. If you get a red card, you're sitting out tropical sevens. There's been a couple of times where we've made exceptions, and that's also changed a lot. I don't care whether you've paid your money or not, because I just send it and the person's not eligible. And tropical sevens and USA Rugby, I'm required to send them the list of players that have the reds and that are still in suspension. So they're not messing around with it either.
Alan, speaking of the U19s, which would be, of course, the youth has a lot of all these divisions. This would be like the highest one.
Yep.
So what is we did lose one team this season, Gibbons, because they had this issue with the what do you call it? The
archdiocese,
the local pope here. Whatever you call it.
Yes, the archbishop did not. They pulled the funding from the rugby program, which was very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not going to get into that. At the same time, Fort Lauderdale sort of got some of those kids, is my understanding, and they have sort of a small roster, but they are playing every game. They just won one last week, and the other really new thing we have here is having 2 Okapi teams.
Yep, and
that is.
Go ahead.
No, it's the first. I don't know, Ross, if you remember ever having.
No.
Well, back in the days, some teams had. I remember when I started in rugby, 2010, like there were 2 divisions. Yes. At the time, it was like there was only one high school division, but divided in 2. And I remember playing. We were in Division 2, Miami, and we played a second team from Naples. So
but that was back when we had 12 teams in there, and you were able to, you kind of had a 6 and 6 situation.
No, and it was like one division, 14s to 18-year-olds all playing together.
Oh, yeah, that's not happening anymore. No, so you can't have because now you extend it to 19. You have a 19-year-old going up against 14-year-old. That would be disastrous, especially with the way some of these kids are today.
So. Yeah, that was a big bet from Okapi, and I think that right now they are sort of, as we were talking earlier with the Division 2 teams who have a Division 3 team, you start the season, you say, yeah, we can do it, and then as the season goes, it's hard to fill those 23 places on game day.
Yeah, I think, they just, I don't know, they always are making the right decisions, to be honest, and they're always pushing the envelope. I think it was, to be honest with you, they're kind of sacrificing their team for the union to make sure that there's enough play. And, kudos to those guys to really pushing the envelope and trying to challenge those boys in the clubs and the parents to do what they, need to do. I just would have done it a little bit different, which I went back and forth with one on that. Yeah. I would have definitely made an A side. I would have committed to a 23-man or a 25-man roster and said, that's it. But they did, I think that they did a good job. Obviously you got their 2 and 3. And I think Pink's ahead of White, which is Pink was,
Well, they have one more game also.
That's true. But and they're supposed to play each other this weekend, but they can't. They're going to rest, and that's their decision. But, I would have definitely made a strong. I'm sure Mariana's going to blow up my phone here, but I would have definitely just made
White is the A team, Alan. He told me.
Huh?
I said White is the A team. He told me.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I tell you, you know what? The Pink is they're tough. But I think what you're seeing is, we forget that Key Biscayne has won the U16 division 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And those kids are maturing and coming into, and this is where they really should be. I mean, they had some tough kids coming through there at that U16 ranks, and they've got some good coaches. And was it Mariano on that team was coaching those U16s, and he's awesome. And he also coaches at Juarez, so he's got it going on there, and they're going to be tough to beat. I think that, and I'm surprised that they're not higher in the national rankings.
So speaking going into next season, Alan, and obviously there's been teams that have come and gone. Anybody sniffing around looking to get a team going for next year, U19 wise?
No, I think the biggest thing that we're having trouble with right now, and I've coached football for 30 years, and this whole new sevens thing that's happening in football, which is kind of sad because if you're not a quarterback or a receiver, sevens football is probably the worst thing that you can do for a sevens player, especially on the defensive side. Just simply, and the coaches, high school football coaches, will tell you that there are better ways to keep kids in shape and informed, than sevens football. And I don't get it. It's this flash and dash BS. I almost said the wrong way.
But you can curse on there.
Oh, I can? Okay. But it's, some of these, and I will tell you, I've had kids that, hey, dude, I've had kids that, hey, get over here and play rugby. And no, I'm going to play sevens. And they paid to play, and they decided to go to sevens. And it's just the wrong thing. And
this is football sevens.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, this is 7-on-7.
And to be honest, it's a joke.
So you know what?
I'm sorry, it's a joke.
Let me because you're speaking of football players. One of the points I had written down here, it does seem that many teams rely very heavily on football players. So they are sort of waiting till the football season is over to get their players. Shouldn't we be
we always have? And
I know, but listen. Yeah. My question is, shouldn't we be trying more to, I'm not saying forget about the football players, but try to recruit players that start playing rugby? They can come from any sport.
So you have to look at the statistics, right? So we talked about it at the beginning. I have massive U12s and massive U10s, U12s. As these kids begin to mature, and half these kids probably don't play football, but they get into these other ranks, and for whatever reason, they do not. And it's not just the Wizards; it's all. The only ones that really seem to keep it are Key Biscayne and Okapi. But we get these kids either get into high school and they don't want to play a sport, or they do something different. Very rarely do kids that play football that are playing rugby today, they continue to do both. But there are kids that don't play another sport. They just stop playing sports, which I just absolutely flabbergasted me. I mean, I tell parents all the time, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. And nope, you're not sitting around for 6 months playing Xbox. You're getting your butt. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's basketball. I don't care if it's baseball or tennis or some track, whatever it is. Just do something. Or dance, art.
The best thing is
drama. Well, yes, but I'm saying that I think we just do some of these parents. It's okay. These parents just don't want to say no. No, you're not doing that. And it's just I don't know what's happened in the last half decade, to be honest. COVID's really changed a lot of things, and it's not going in the right direction.
Alan, tell me let's talk a little bit about girls rugby, because I have noticed really seems to me an increasing number of girls in the younger divisions.
It's a bright spot. It's a big bright spot right now.
And I have seen we have this team, but we have not managed to get 3 or 4 teams, 15s, to be able to play something. We have these girls in Jacksonville, your girls in Wellington, the South Tech girls, and I think that, I don't know, Fort Lauderdale was trying, but I think that has not progressed too much. So, and we do have an event coming up. You want to talk a little bit about this?
So we've literally, well, I think between the efforts of the North, really we've tripled in size in 1 year, which we've had the most girls we've had in a long time since about 2018 and 19. So and then we've got the Cayman thing coming up with our U14s, and it was funny. I just got a text message from Toby Lawrence, Fort Lauderdale. It's like, hey, he goes, can those U16 girls that play U14s, can they come play on my U14 side? And I reminded him, I said, Toby, those are 13, 14-year-old girls. They're just a bunch of badasses. So they just can play. I mean, they just, we have these girls, these young ladies, these young athletes that, they've been playing against some of these boys since they're 10 years old, and 8 in some cases, and they are just conditioned, to be honest, just to whoop ass, and that's all they do. I mean, they just beat up on people, and
no
it's
fear.
absolute. Oh, it's awesome. And it's, they dominate in practice, they dominate on the field, and it's great because I think it's this particular group of girls, because they've been doing it for so long, the acceptance amongst some of the male, or the acceptance amongst the male athletes has been a lot better than it has in recent past. And let me tell you, you talk smack to them, that you're having a conversation at the end of the match, and they'll go grab the coach and like, listen, he said this and he said that, and it was really cool. We had that happen, and the other athlete, who was a male, and he said to his coaches, he said, yeah, coach, I did say that, and I was disrespectful. And that's the kind of thing that you want to see, right? The admittance to that, and the acceptance. And he said, you girls were just you guys were just beating us up, and I'm sorry, I went that way. And it's just awesome to see. I mean, to be honest with you, these girls should be some of the best players in the country when they come. They stick with it. And they should all be getting offers, whether it's at Queens, whether it's at Life, whether it's at, St. Bonaventure, wherever they decide to go. It's really going to be what they do and what they want. They can pick and choose.
Yeah. Anybody sort of on the fringes of national team stuff, Alan, whether it's boys or girls? I know we've seen obviously some representatives over the last few years. I haven't heard any of late, but I was just
for which one now?
Just any of the boys and girls sort of close to potential national team representation?
I mean, outside of, everybody knows Liam Gray, right? He got the Naval Academy, and that kid, I laugh because he was such a little knucklehead when he was 8, and he's just grown into it. His dad is.
He was a great water boy. Let me tell you.
I've been
watching him since. Yeah.
And of course, Dwight he's just a stellar individual, and he's just raised those boys right, and that whole Gray family, and he is just, I just like watching him play. He's just unbelievable, and it's going to be really great to see him at the Naval Academy this next 4 years and see what he can do.
Hopefully they'll get some exposure. That's the great thing about Tropical Sevens, is getting the exposure there.
No, I think, and the other thing too is we're trying
recruiting.
The sevens is coming up. We've got some kids, and with Atlantis and stuff like that, we're trying to get some kids out the U14 level a little bit earlier to play on Atlantis, because really, getting coached from other coaches across, from getting that other exposure of other techniques and things like that, I think is really critical to rugby development. And the sevens kind of offer that for certain type of players, especially for scrummies and the backs, right? And occasionally some of your flankers, but they need that extra drive and to see that competition, and so we're hoping that some of our kids will get picked up nationally for some of these teams.
Hey, one thing I want to mention that I have seen that has been an improvement and a good one is the amount of teams that have been coming to Florida to play. A bunch of Aaron with Jacksonville, he had teams coming. December we had that tournament in Tampa that we had a team coming from some of the state. These Cayman Islands boys and now girls have come already twice, playing against Key Biscayne and Okapi, and we have this event on the 29th, which seems to be a really interesting thing.
Yes, no, and kudos to to STU putting this thing on. Thank God. I mean, that's fantastic. And it really is. I mean, the thing is with Florida, right? It's not expensive to get here, and the weather is really great and conducive to. I mean, we play sports here all year round. To get to California is well, no, I'm probably going to get reamed for that, folks, but it's a mess, and it's either on fire or it's dried up or it's flooded, right? Or you got earthquakes.
We have some issues here also.
Yeah, no, listen, but that's okay. That's June, July. There was that July, August, September.
You can
But
ask for.
it's very expensive to go to some of these places, and I think Florida is really kind of a cheap option. You've got a bazillion airports that you can fly into that really are 3-4 hours apart. In most cases, 45 minutes apart between PBI, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. And technically, you could even fly into Orlando and Tampa and still drive over, and it's not crazy. So that's not a bad thing either. And really, to drive from Jacksonville, it's only 4 hours. It's not like it's that long. So we really are, and it's not too expensive. And food here is cheaper. It's not as it is if you've traveled a little bit. And so it just kind of brings that environment. It's just a cheap way to come in here and play some good competition.
Yeah, well, for some reason, I mean, we have Tropical Sevens. That is one of the biggest sevens tournament in the world. And I just saw announced we're going to have Lit Sevens, which is that tournament that they play in England. Ross, you probably know them, of course.
Yeah.
They're going to have one in November this year in over there at IMG. Oh, not, I'm not sure IMG or the other one where Tropical is. Big tournament. So yeah, we should definitely.
That would be great in November, because that would migrate a lot of kids to start earlier. Because where our struggle is we start, it's the kids start trickling in from football. I got half my kids before Thanksgiving, and then it really isn't until after the holidays that they end up coming on a consistent basis.
Well, I would think that if we have something in place in the fall, that would, some kind of tournament that would, that would help for the clubs to be more like, oh, we need to get started, as soon as possible. But.
Well, I think what happened was it not last weekend? I think the weekend before last. Yeah. The Fort Lauderdale field at Mills Pond Park, that is a fabulous facility. The fact you got those 3 fields, it's very conducive. And I want to put states there next year. I've already talked to Toby. I'm like, you need to go tell them to get the date dropped in that first weekend in May. We can go from there. But, that 3 field is really good. I think it can help kind of grow that rugby in that area, help Fort Lauderdale youth as well as the high school to really push, and girls as well, and get those girls out there. But I think that, and why not have a Rugger Fest like it used to be? We used to have Rugger Fest before Christmas. Get that tournament going. And the union can help pay for some of that and get it going, so that we can have some play and get the excitement and lock these kids in a lot earlier.
Yeah, of course, they need to play.
Good stuff. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about Treasure Coast Festival this weekend. If you're up that way,
we'll be there.
I think games get started 9 to 2.
We didn't mention that the growth also has been very interesting in the West Coast. Pelicans. I was checking the registrations. That they have like 25 kids registered.
They got more than that. They've got it's done a good job with Wickus and John Lewis and Dean Thomas and all those folks over there. It's just trying to find a location. I think they've struggled with some field locations, and this will be the first kind of East versus West kind of a thing this weekend, certainly at the U10 and U12 level. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And then, the biggest thing that we struggle with too is, we had to, because we only had the one field, because we're trying to grow it there in Treasure Coast. So we had to, we have about 100 U14s coming, but we only had about 16 or so U8s. So we had to sacrifice the U8s to allow the U14s, because they can't be starting a game at 2:30 for the U14s, and you're starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. That is a long day. And I'm afraid the teams wouldn't show up in that situation. So we kind of consolidated, got multiple fields going on the same field for the youth to bang them out. And then it'll be great to see. And then they're going to kind of, I think what'll happen is we have some very physical U10s and U12 teams here in the South.
Really?
Okay, yeah. And I'm not sure they're used to that. So I'm a little bit worried. And so we didn't allow some of the younger players to play up, because I just don't think I want to make sure it's the right experience for some of these young kids.
That is something that does not come to mind. Speaking of U10s, like physical. Hey, Ross, does that venue bring any memories to you? What's the name of the field, Alan?
Mills Pond Park, or
no, the
one up in Treasure Coast, a
yeah.
certain youth semifinal between Miami. It was the B division semifinal between Miami and what was the Pitt Cruz team?
Yeah,
not the Lincoln Park Academy.
Lincoln LPA, yeah.
Yeah, and it did not end.
It did not end.
70 minutes.
And that was actually,
it ended a little too soon.
Yeah. Speaking of physical,
that was my wife's first ever game she watched me ref. It turned into a massive brawl involving parents, siblings.
Speaking of reffing, are you reffing anymore, Ross? What is up with that?
Listen, the travel softball world has swallowed me whole, Alan. Unfortunately,
I missed the walking down the field with it. That is the best ever.
I'm trying to get back at that. I'm feeling a lot better physically this year. I had some foot problems last year. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, well, I'm either here or there, or soccer broadcasting starts this weekend, but I'm going to try and get out there before the end of the season.
That's a classical excuse for the refs. Foot problems. Yes, it's always foot problems.
Yeah,
listen, foot problems.
Fat boys like me, those feet get a lot of work.
Alan, I want to thank you for your time, and
yes, thank you, Alan,
for the union for sponsoring.
Keep up the hard work. I know it's a
hopefully,
thankless task sometimes.
You're one of the heroes of rugby here.
I don't know about all that.
And the rest of the officers.
Well, anybody's ready to step in, I'm willing to hand it over.
No, you're a lot, man. You're screwed. You're gonna be here forever.
And all. We've got good leaders in the union. I don't do this by myself. We really don't, outside of the parents, sometimes everybody is, this has been one of the better seasons in a long time. And there's just been a lot of youth, and people just seem to just be kind of pointing in the right direction. So good. I just hope it continues. And I hope I didn't jinx myself with the red cards, because we're at 2 so far and we're going into week 7.
You'll be fine.
At the high school level. Yeah, I think so. Fine. So anyway.
Okay.
Cheers out.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Cheers,
Alan.
gentlemen.
Well,
all right, you bet.
Hopefully soon. Bye-bye. Okay. Well,
we made it, Charlie. Carlos was asking about my shirt. This is my Hammerheads 7 shirt from Barefoot many years ago with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky right down here on my
pretty wacky, but very appropriate for 7.
It's one of those shirts that I was hoping I didn't rip during the game, because it's such an awesome shirt.
Okay.
I think this is Dan Banks' creation.
So before we say goodbye to the audience, I want to say goodbye to this young lady, which she has been there. Hola, Valentina. She's
still
been
watching you
all the time. Yeah, man. And look, then when I go and see her, she's going to give me all, oh, you screwed up here. That wasn't that good,
She's your biggest fan and your biggest critic as well.
Still awake, huh? A bunch of people went to sleep and she's doing. Gracias, Valentina. Nos vemos. Yay. Man, that's good here in the back, the dog.
Let's do that.
Showing her.
Getting in the shot there.
Yeah. Okay. Ciao, Valentina.
Good stuff.
Hey, Ross, thank you very much for showing up. I don't know we're going to be able to have you. It brought fond memories of 2020 when we started this thing.
We'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. Yeah, enjoy. I hear you're going up to Savannah this weekend potentially.
Most likely to watch Mateo, who is now playing with a team from Virginia.
Yeah, your son moved up to Richmond, and Savannah tournament is, if you haven't been yet,
I haven't been.
It's quite the experience, and then the party Saturday night. Although they do play on Sunday too, which 8 a.m. games don't always get going because teams don't have enough players. But it's certainly something you have to do once as a player in Florida. It's not too far.
Gonna be a busy weekend with the Sharks on Friday.
Yep, Six Nations as well. Hopefully.
Oh my God, yeah. Well,
England can take care of Italy.
I'll be watching some of those while I'm driving.
There you go. Safely, I hope.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see you around, Ross. Thank you very much.
Thanks everybody for checking in. Hopefully, we'll listen. The title of this has occasionally in it, and it's for good reason.
I was really smart.
Thank you.
That was your
Take
idea.
credit for that one.
Bye, man.
See you, mate.